Hello? Yeah, speaking.
They're still waiting on the rest. Whoever can join.
Okay.
Get a couple of more minutes.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, guys.
Hey, Smith.
Hi, hi.
Hi, good evening all.
Is Arun going to join today? Do you know? Sure.
No idea. I mean, I figured he would. Right. So Gaurav said he might not be able to make it. I don't know. Ask him. Is the doctor joining? Ravi, doctor, and then
I'm
Dr.
just calling
Sanjay.
him up. Not picking. Probably he may.
Oh, no worries. Okay. So we'll just have a quick update then. We can inform the rest asynchronously. It's okay. I just wanted to follow up on like 2 to 3 things. First is
One sec,
correct.
Dr. Krishna is calling.
Oh, okay.
He's joining. Dr. Krishna is joining. Okay. Yeah, go on, Ashwin. Meanwhile,
Hello.
We're trying.
hi, Arun.
Hey.
Hello. Are we waiting on Dr. Krishna?
Yeah, he's joining in 2 minutes. He said.
Okay. I mean, I can start. So I think it's
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. So have 3 updates from my end that I wanted to catch up on. One is from updates with respect to design. So GJ and I have been working on workflows. We started the consultation workflow, which we presented last week, right? following the edits that he had made, we'll be moving on to the appointments scheduling workflow. We don't have any specific updates there yet. Once we have some significant work done, we will present to the team like before. With respect to engineering, Anand and I went over the designs that he had come up with for the tech infra architecture. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. No, there's someone said something. Okay. So at some point, Anand, if you just give us a walkthrough of the of your ideas, that would be good here in this call. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I'm,
And then the third is in terms of the delay in meeting the team. I have to apologize. I had some personal work that I had to attend to today and the next couple of days. So I couldn't actually plan the meeting. However, I will fix that. I'll work with Dr. Krishna and Smith and get that sorted sooner than later. We're waiting for the lockdown rules for February to be in effect, like to figure out what they're going to say. I think it'll make it easier for us to make decisions once that comes in. Just 4 days away or 5 days away. So those are the three major updates that I have. Ravi, I wanted to ask you about the current development. I saw the UI designs. Thank you for those mockups. I wanted to know what the progress is, what we're doing, and gentle updates over there on that front.
We are working on app side. The app, a few changes were there actually. So on the app side, we are working few changes. Then on the web application side also, as per the new design, we are working on it. Probably it may take another 1 or 2 weeks to complete it. Once that is done, actually we are handing it over completely. We are closing the development activities and we'll be handing it over here.
Okay, so this involves UI level changes, right? Rearranging the different components.
Rearranging and few things are as a new this thing we are updating it across, like immunization and other things. Actually, there is a major table structure also.
I saw that. Okay.
Yeah. So all those things are there.
Okay. All right.
so when you say app side, sorry?
Yeah, and the mobile app side also.
Yeah, so do you have separate code base for the mobile app side to talk to the backend? Or does it talk to the, is there
we
like
have
some
an
kind
API.
of
There's an API folder which is talking to the app, mobile app.
Okay, so from Code Igniter, you talk to the mobile app, correct? The PHP to
Not in
or
not with the Code Igniter. Actually, it's a regular PHP API calls.
Okay, and it's inside the app itself, like the folder where the app is, or
no, I have shared you the this thing. No, the web development EYJect development repo. Inside that, actually, there is an API folder.
okay. But this API that you've created, this has this will handle all the logic for the app. It's not related to.
It's not related to the
that.
Not with the web application. Only one is there. That is one thing which is common is the appointment scheduling. Appointment scheduling from the individual doctor's clinic portal. We are calling the same APIs. We are using this APIs here also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Anand, whenever you're ready, you can walk us through your ideas.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I've been working on an architecture kind of a design for the entire app. I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Confluence page where what I came up with. This broadly classifies various parts of the app. Then I've spoken a little bit about what kind of architecture we'll be using, like what the backend is going to be, how it is going to talk to each other, what kind of API we're going to be using, and then just like a high level design of everything that will happen in the app. Um, so that's the basic idea in writing this document, and this will be helpful in any kind of development that we need to do. This kind of will be trying to answer them. Currently, it's still in a little bit of a basic level, but as we go in and start working on specific features, we will be adding more details. I'll just walk everybody through this this document. Let me know if you guys have any question at any point of time, and I can clarify that. So what I ended up doing was like I thought that the basic there are three basic components in this entire app. One is the physician or the clinical management. The other part is the patient. Whatever happens to the patient data. So I've just called it as patient EMR management. And then there is this thing called vendor integration, like any third party application, be it a glucometer, any kind of device that you want to do, they get integrated into the system. So I split the system into three big components, and anything that happens within that component, there'll be separate services to handle what happens there. So that's the idea that I wanted to think. I thought about it like that, and I split it up like that. So at any point of time, if you take a user, right? So a patient, it can. I'll actually talk a little bit about the roles first. Um, the system will have different types of users. One being the patient. The patient is going to be identified by a unique reference called MRID. This MRID is going to be common across clinics. Like let's say that there are two doctors in two different clinics using our system, then this patient ID is going to remain the same for both the clinics. For each and every clinic, there is going to be a specific format and specific number, which will be added to this, or it can be a separate number that they can use internally. So that's how MRID is going to work. In regards to permissions for what they can do or what they cannot do, this gives you an idea. So patient can do like all operations: create, read, update, delete their information. They can read about the patient information, they can read about the clinic information, and they can read about the SOAP notes. There is a hospital admin who will probably be the first person trying out our software, see everything is working, those kind of stuff. They will have a unique identifier as well. I'm just calling it as hospital reference ID. They will be able to read the patient information and update the patient information, but to update it, there needs to be some kind of an approval process. So that's why I'm saying like it's with commit. And then they should be able to do all kinds of operations on the doctor information, clinical information. Whereas for SOAP notes, they should not have permission to edit the SOAP notes. I mean, I'm not even sure if we should allow them to read it, but for now, I assume since the way the functionality is, they're allowed to read them. So that's why I've added it like this. Doctor, also, the only difference between the doctor and the hospital admin is that they can edit or update the SOAP notes. They are also not allowed to edit the patient information like name or stuff like that. They also would need approval. so it can be from a patient or it can be from a super user at this point who's like the power admin who has the access to do all the things. So this model it'll define all kinds of permissions. If you're adding a new user, then we will give them permissions based on this model so that they can easily have access to places, and our APIs will be controlled using this kind of permission. So yeah, that's what this does. Then so the users, like I was mentioning, there are different types of users, right? So a patient, if you take a patient, they will be able to create appointment, create or update their profile. They'll be able to give you a quick detail about what happened to them, what are the past medical history. Then this is something like something that we will not be dealing with now, but once we move into a place where patient has a lot, we have a proper patient portal where they can share information. This functionality will come in, wherein they can authorize or revoke doctor or clinic from viewing their data. So that's, and then then one of the main functionalities that is required in a patient portal or wherever the patient information is to just download copies of reports, prescriptions, etc. So these are various things that you will be able to do using a patient service. Then, okay, so I'm gonna see if I can maximize. Okay, so we are going to be using an architecture type called serverless. Why serverless is because first of all, we have a lot of services in our system. It integrates with various applications. It has a lot of moving parts. It can have multiple front ends plus mobile apps and etc. So if you use a serverless kind of an architecture, it is very, very easy to scale. If you want to scale, it is going to be very easy. Plus, in serverless, one of the main benefits is you will only pay for the amount of time you're actually using the computation of that particular server that you will. So that actually tremendously reduces the cost rather than always having a server which is going to be running. Also, when you have this kind of an architecture, it is very, very easy to add or remove services or add or remove any features from it in a very fast way. And also, you can call this like a plug and play. We want to add a new thing, you will just be able to call like a function that will do it, and that will help you easily build on top of it. So that's also one of the main benefits of using like a serverless architecture. I thought that we can use AWS. I'm still researching between AWS and Google Cloud Systems to see what the benefits are between them and what we should go about using. But if we do end up using AWS and Amazon for our system, Amazon actually gives us a very clean login or authorizations plus authentication system called AWS Cognito. What this helps us achieve is whenever a request comes in, we'll have some kind of a service or a reverse proxy of a kind. It can come from either a patient or physician, or it can come
I have a
from
question.
even a. Sure, go ahead.
Are we able to deploy serverless into Amazon's HIPAA cloud?
Sorry?
Are we able to deploy a serverless or the serverless architecture into Amazon's HIPAA cloud?
You should be able to, yes. And they are the ones who are asking you to be serverless. So.
Okay, sounds good. That's one thing I'd like to be conscious about, be it whatever cloud it is. And if we need any help from Amazon, we have Gary works there, so we have all the help we need.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just so to clarify something to you, when it comes to serverless, we are actually not going to be hosting a backend anywhere. We are just going to be using.
I understand. I understand. The compute machine still runs somewhere. I just want to make sure that it's going to be from their HIPAA cloud and not necessarily from the regular cloud. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can think that's where Lambda runs, but I'll double check and get back to you on that. I'm pretty sure that Lambdas you can configure where you want it to run.
Okay.
Okay, coming back. So this kind of this server or proxy is going to serve more like a reverse proxy layer. By reverse proxy layer, what I mean is whenever a physician or a patient is talking to the system through our system, what happens is it gives out a specific URL, but that will not have any meaning to what its purpose is, and it will hit this common place which will take the URL, it will send it to AWS Cognito, do all the check with the user pool whether this person has the roles, that the required role permission to edit or view whatever they are trying to do, and then it will navigate it to various services that we have. Let's say that a patient is trying to update a patient profile, right? So it will go through the system. The login will, if it is not authenticated, it is going to send out saying that you need to log in. But once they are logged in, what will happen is it will go through the service proxy. Then there is this concept called message queue that we are trying to implement. I'll come back to that just a little later, but assume that it goes through that queue and then it will finally reach this function or a service which is responsible for updating the patient profile. And that will talk to the patient database and update it. And when a patient database gets updated, then there'll be a notification that's sent, and that will make the UI update accordingly. That's the workflow for any kind of request that happens through the system. It can be the same for any API requests. So that is the best part about it. Now, let's say that tomorrow we have capability to talk to a lab directly, and the user wants to see if the lab results are ready. For that, if they have to be authenticated, we will just add a function which will talk to the labs and which does not need to know the logic for authentication. And we can just what we can do is we can plug it in this same architecture, and it will already know whether the login has to be done or not, because AWS Cognito will take care of that. So that's the best part about this architecture. Like when you want to add something, the other parts are already going to work, and you just have to plug this in and it will just automatically work. And that's one of the main reasons why I thought we should go with this architecture. Next thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, so let's. This is a good case for talking about message queues. I had a thing for message queues. Okay, so currently what happens is there are multiple ways where glucometer readings get entered into our system. Ravi, please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so currently what happens is there is when somebody makes a glucometer reading, it goes into that device's server, and from that server, somebody says push this data. That's what happens, right? Most of the cases, Ravi, am I right?
No, it's automated actually. The data is read by the machine and it goes to their server, and from their server, our API is called actually. It's
okay.
automated.
So you give them a URL to call, right?
Yes. Endpoint is called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what happens is that architecture that logic will still work. So we will give them a URL to be called, and that URL will reach the service proxy. And once it reaches the service proxy, that is basically considered like a job. The job is to push data to this particular patient's sugar or diabetes information. So do that, and that will be just a message, and that message will be pushed into some kind of a queue. And that's what I was talking to you about, like as a message queue. And this message queue, always what it does is as and when jobs come in, this message queue will know when to schedule what, and what will happen is it will take the most recent message, and then it will look at its contents and figure out what it needs to do, and then it will call the relevant service that needs to be done. So this is what will happen is, if it is a glucometer reading, it will know that it needs to push it to the patient information. If it is a create appointment, then it will know that it needs to push this information into the hospital management. So that's the let's say that there are so many pushes happening at the same time for glucometer reading, right? There are like a lot of data that's coming in. Then this kind of an architecture will ensure that there is no delay or lag, some kind of a log that happens in the database that doesn't happen at all when you have it like this. So they're all going to be messages one by one. They will all get pushed, and as and when they get pushed, you will see the updates. You can subscribe to those updates in your UI, and you can view the updates as and when they are coming in. That's one of the best benefits of using like a queue architecture, and we will solve this. This will solve some problems when it comes to a lot of data being pushed. So that's and we've tried to do this. We're going to try and do this for all our calls, be it for the patient information, be it for lab reports. Any call that comes in, it can go inside this message queue, and through that it will get processed out. And that's that way it makes it very easy for us to develop this as well. Next. Okay, I did copy this from Amazon, but I wanted to give you guys like a quick workflow as to what will happen. So once whatever application thing that you do in your API, in your front end, it goes and talks to the AWS Amazon's Cognito user pool. It gets the authentication, and once the authentication is done, your session is going to be valid for some amount of time, how much of a time that we set. After that, you don't have to worry about authentication. So given the API, it will go through this API gateway, and this gateway will already have the session context. So when the session is invalid, it will say invalid and it will send it back. So again, authentication is already handled here. And after this, we go to this AWS Lambda, which is basically multiple services. One can be patient service, one can be the hospital service, one can be the third-party service. So you can go to multiple services from here, and each and every service already knows about the session context of the Cognito. Once again, it is inherently built inside them. So whenever something is not authenticated, it will immediately stop, and it will send out you. And every time it stops, you can ask it to give a redirect URL, and it will redirect you to the particular URL automatically. So authentication is always handled by this approach. I don't have to worry about that. One another advantage is you can also ask this Amazon Cognito, if you can tell it that I also want to check for basic roles, or also want to add additional permission layer to it. You can add that to it, and that will also be automatically checked. So that's usually what will happen in normal architecture is you'll make an additional call to your database to see whether this person has permission or not. But that can also be put inside this, so that you have just one thing that does all of authentication, authorization, any kind of things can be done through that. So that's another benefit. Okay, this diagram, I mean, it can get a little techy, but load balancer exists to handle a lot of calls happening at the same time. And if it is hitting the same server, it can create a bottleneck, and it can make it can fail. So you want to have some kind of a balancer which will ensure that if there are a lot of things happening, then it will either spin up another server or increase the capacity of that server. There are multiple approaches how you can handle a load balancer. But so some kind of a load balancer needs to exist. And in our architecture, that is, we already have a load balancer because when we use Lambda functions, Amazon already gives you a normal elastic load balancer. So you can configure that, how to tell it how to handle load. So, but what we are going to be doing is, while we configure it to add the load balancer logic, we are also going to be adding the message queue into that, so that the queue will also be processed with the help of load balancer, and as it processes it, it will go into different services. So that's why I've given this kind of a diagram. I want to quickly see if I can explain the data model. This is not a ER diagram. This is a very simple, very high level explanation of how the data flows and how it is connected. This actually has the representation of all the three databases: the user database, which is here, user, patient, patient profile, patient reports. They're all going to be part of the user database. And then there is a hospital database, which will contain the hospital appointments, payments, then doctor, then the SOAP notes, case sheets, meta table associated with that. Now, so I was talking to Ashwin about this as well. Like, so the concept, any clinic is considered to be a container. That way, if you want to onboard a doctor to that container, you would just create a link between a doctor and a container. Meaning that the main reason in considering that like that is because a doctor can exist in multiple clinics. So we don't want to create like a specific, we want to create a separate clinic but at the same time, we want to maintain the same doctor ID across our system. So that's why we want to create a separate link between them. And then I think that I've created this concept of appointments for as the main entity that drives a consultation. But I think Ashwin pointed out that we might have to have, which is not the appointment time, but the diagnosis or other factors that will define what happens in a consultation. That this appointment thing itself needs a little more research, but the logic here is when a patient goes into their portal and creates an appointment, a kind of a unique transaction gets created in the system, and whatever happens after that, like when they actually go and meet the doctor can do various things like fill the SOAP notes, figure out diagnosis, take feet, take information about the feet or sugar, and whatever, right? There are multiple things that can happen, and all those things will be versioned for that particular appointment. If they are going to have another follow-up, then that another follow-up will be another appointment, either created by the patient or auto-generated, but that will also have an unique identification through that appointment ID, and then all the things will follow like that. And then if at all you want to link all of them, you can link them by the initial parent appointment or the initial diagnosis that we decide upon. Whichever is the factor is, one with that factor, there will be a timeline of events that you can see for that patient for that particular issue. So and this unique ID is going to be used for labs, for pharmacy, anything after anything that happens after the appointment will be linked using the appointment ID. And this, if you want to say refer this patient to another doctor, then all you need is to know the appointment ID. And once you have the appointment ID, you can get the SOAP notes. You can get you can just create a packet out of it and just push it through to whoever you want. And it will be way faster to do that. That is why we're basing things based out of appointment. Now, and one thing that so every doctor has different types of widgets. Like for instance, if you are talking about an eye doctor, they are going to have in their consultation page what various parameters for the left eye, various parameters for the right eye, whether they have glaucoma or things like that. If it's a diabetics, then there are whole other sections. They are going to have eye, they are going to have feet, they are going to have blood sugar level, other factors. So I've created this thing called a meta table, which is related to every doctor. When a doctor gets onboarded, they can say what are the widgets they have. If we already have those widgets, we can ask them what fields needs to go into those widgets and what type of value that is, either it is a percentage, whether it is 0 to 10, 1 to 100, those kind of factors. And then we store them in one table like a JSON. It's just stored in the table as such. And what happens is, like, whenever we want to show in the UI, whenever you want to decide what widgets to show, you will always know that this doctor has these widgets. We don't have to like customize every time as to, oh, this has to have this value. No, we just store it. We just ask them once and we just store it and we just output that value. That's it. When we are entering case notes, like during the consultation, when they're entering the value, we will use this field's unique identifier as well, so that in the future, if you ever want to know things like what happened to this patient in the last 2 years with its sugar value, then you will be able to find that. Same way, any if you want to run this query for the entire clinic, you can still do it without the doc ID. We can just say for this entire clinic, I want to find out any person who has had more than minus 1.0 power, then give me that information. You will have a unique identifier for that. So you can just say IE dot something, and then it will give you all the values very, very easily. This kind of a meta table is going to help us use this application for any type of doctor very, very easily. And it is going to be very quick and easy setup. So that's going to be very, very useful for us. And that's why I wanted to go with like a JSON architecture, which is free form. We don't restrict them on anything, and we don't have to build new tables or new columns to support any new doctor who wants a new parameter. Like today, let's say that in Dr. Krishna's clinic, he's looking for 5 parameters. Tomorrow, let's say that okay, brain scan is included, and there is a particular percentage for brain scan, right? So all he will do is he'll go to his page where he has all his widgets. He will be like, okay, add this widget with these fields. That's it. And then once he updates it, it'll automatically start showing up in his patient consultation form. That's the idea behind having this meta table. But yeah, pretty much. I think I covered most of the design.
You're thinking about something similar for billing, insurance, and all that, right?
Yes. So the meta table is not just for a doctor. It is also, the meta table is the same for the clinic. Then we are going to have, I'm not really sure about the subscriptions yet, but for subscriptions also, if for different subscriptions, if it is going to have different parameters, then yes, they're all going to be feature based.
Cool.
And yeah, I can touch a little bit about payments, but thing is, like, we might be integrating with different payment systems to do the payments for as far as an appointment is concerned. So if you look at it from here, like an appointment and payment are directly linked. So from this, if there is a third-party system that you're using, then you're going to have some kind of an invoice ID which will be stored in here. And if you are generating any invoice, then you can just store that as patient report. And because each and every report can have a report type, and they can view the report just from there. And you don't have to distinguish a lab report. I mean, you have to distinguish, but you don't have to. You can store all of them in the same table, and then just differentiate it from the report type in the UI or through queries. So that's solved here. Subscriptions, like I said, I wasn't sure about what kind of subscriptions we're going to provide to the clinics, but subscriptions are based on the container. Like each and every clinic is going to have its own subscriptions. If it is going to say that clinic can have only 10 doctors should have access, then that can be entered here, and that will control the logic in the container. And actually it will be handled through something called as Cognito user pools, wherein you say if this container should not have more than, you can set a rule, like you can set a rule saying that if the count of this particular thing is more than 10, then do not allow. So those kind of those levels of permissions and roles can be set through Cognito itself. So we can handle subscription powers based on that. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Date of birth. So currently, are we asking our patients the date of birth? Like, are we using it anywhere, Ravi?
Yes, we are capturing the date of birth.
Okay, good. So what I thought was the patient's name, email or phone number, and date of birth. The date of birth is going to be that, and the name will mostly be used as the unique thing that will define a patient, irrespective of whether they are a caretaker or not a caretaker. If they are a caretaker of somebody, then they should, when they are being onboarded, they should be entering the date of birth of the person whom they're taking care of. They should not be entering their information. Their phone number they can enter, their email they can enter, but they should never be entering their date of birth. They should be entering the date of birth of the patient. That way, even when they come into the system as a patient, we can still uniquely distinguish between those two people. That is how we will be handling uniqueness. And that will ensure that nobody who is not allowed to see somebody's data will never be allowed. Only that person who has the date of birth can see that. If they are a caretaker, they will still have access to that person's using the date of birth. But that's
I always thought that was a very flawed way of identifying patients.
Which is the date of birth.
Date of birth and name?
No, it's not just date of birth and name. They're going to be this constrained category. We are still going to have, in India, the problem is phone number is given. So like Ravi was mentioning the other day, for him and his mom, I think, there's going to be same phone number.
Yeah, in India,
So
we have many people use the same identification. Even date of birth also will not be a common, actually, because most of the people doesn't give the date of birth at all.
Well, we're going to have to require them to do it.
Yeah, they will not give the proper date of birth. That's a major issue.
Well, they have to show some kind of an ID now, right?
Not a mandate.
Yeah, Aadhaar card or something.
It's not a mandatory.
Well, let's try. I mean, we should. We will store the date of birth. If we ask them, I don't think if the doctor asks the date of birth, okay. I didn't know that people will.
Date of birth has not been date of birth has not been mandatory. Like I can walk into a clinic and get consultation.
It might be a good time to start making it mandatory.
Why? Because it's convenient for us. That might not fly.
No, because it's part of your patient profile. That date of birth is quite important for any kind of diagnostics.
They need to know your. They need to know your
age for diagnostics.
Right, but
wherever I go, the first question I'm asked is age.
Yeah,
age is different from date of birth.
Remember that many people don't know their date of birth. So a lot of times.
So that's a different problem.
One second, let me finish. So a lot of times what we do is when we ask the date of birth to calculate age, we just use, we approximate, we actually approximate the date using their age, right? But nowadays patients just fish out their Aadhaar cards and provide the date of birth in it. So it should not be an issue. But it should not be an issue actually. At some point of time, people also need to move on. So it's not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, this is not
Yeah.
going to stop them from using the application if that's what you're worried about. It's not going to stop them, but at the same time, this will help in breaking the conflicts in cases that is the same phone number. This will help us identify that.
So actually, you know, we've never had a
It's also
problem.
the
I
case.
don't know about what Ravi says in other clinics, but in our clinic, we've never had a problem. So we've been collecting date of births for years now. And if somebody has a problem, we help them. That's not an issue.
Yeah, in
Okay.
other clinics also, generally they as you are doing it same way, they will detect their age with the year, and always they'll go with a January 1st as a date of birth.
Also,
Okay.
Anand, you cannot rely on phone numbers to be unique at any point in time, primarily because you're also dealing with minors here.
Yeah. I'm just talking about it because initially we had an issue in our in the existing system with phone numbers.
Yeah.
That's why I pointed that out. I
Yeah.
see how for me in the user there is no phone number in the table column.
I mean, I think we
Anand,
should assign a unique identifier to the user, and then we can figure out how to authenticate against it with physical IDs and whatnot.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ravi.
Yeah, what is this thing is actually we had to take care of patient-wise subscription also here. Probably a patient can subscribe to the multiple clinics with the multiple appointment model, with the multiple doctors also. Because
Yeah, of course, we definitely love that.
Yeah, because today or tomorrow actually there will be an OPD insurance will going to occur in India also. So we had to see where the patient can subscribe to the multiple subscriptions.
So patient needs the subscription with the hospital.
Yes, with the multiple doctors. Yes, that.
I think you're just talking about consultations here, not subscriptions, right?
It can be a subscriptions, no? Because in many of the Andhra Pradesh where we went to Rajahmundry and Vijayawada, there is an already they're using a similar kind of a subscription where patient used to pay for 1 year, or maybe they'll pay as a voucher. They pay $1,500 and they can consult for 5 times with any of the doctors, any of their clinic services.
Got it. So actual subscription things. Okay, Anand, take that into account, please.
Yeah, I will definitely. Yeah, I didn't know about this. I will definitely consider that. So insurance is another thing. So the insurance will come under payments. The main reason why I did not do anything with insurance here is because whatever we do with insurance, it's going to be through an API. So we will, while collecting the insurance information of a patient, that will be part of the biofields. It's an array of fields that they can enter. This is also going to be a meta because like if a clinic is asking for a specific information that can get that can be part of the biofields for certain patients. So that's why it's here as an array of fields. Insurance. So insurance number, they can enter the insurance. We will have set of insurance providers in our static database, like how we have the lab names, how we have the medicine names. We'll have the insurance names. Then we will also have insurance information, like who to contact for that insurance internally for that particular area, and then the admin will have access to a page where they can find out the phone number if they have to contact, and if there is an online link to submit claim, those kind of stuff will be there. Some insurances actually ask you to manually do the claims, I think. So that process, we need to I need to know the exact workflow for the process. So I have not since I was not 100% sure, I have not put insurance here. But I can just quickly tell you that it will be through APIs, and all that back and forth can happen through API and email. That is the process that I'm envisioning for us. So yeah, that's where it is. And now, what did I want to say?
One more thing is actually maybe Dr. Krishna can help me out. A junior doctor, there will be a multiple clinics which handled by the junior doctors and the senior doctors, and
Okay.
wherein the same patient information is shared between those two within their department itself. Sometimes actually with the same department, there are junior doctors, junior consultants and senior consultants. They will share the data across their department. So those kind of an flexibility also we may have to keep it across. Some of the data will be entered by junior doctors, some of the data will be entered by the consultant, the senior consultants. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, in doctor, right, like this, if you go back to this permission, maybe we can create junior doctors who has certain permissions that the hospital admin doesn't have.
Yeah.
And that way they will automatically have permission to this, to update certain information on the patient bio or patient consultation. That can be handled just by setting up the user role.
Yeah.
Nothing else is going to change.
Technicians also, yeah. Even the lab technicians can enter lab.
And then they can all be hospital admins, right? They can, maybe I don't want to call them as admins, so we can call them as junior doctors or duty doctors. But the role is going to be admin with access of account, so they should be able to update certain information.
Yeah.
They won't be able to edit the SOAP notes, but I don't know if it is a junior doctor, then they should also be.
Yeah, they should collect the history.
To,
yeah, there should be.
So there will be much more in many places. For example, they can be nurse practitioners or physician assistants, right?
Yeah.
I'll help you. We'll help you set up a hierarchy. I mean, once this, I mean, that the architecture is fine. It allows for multiple roles, isn't it? So you can always create multiple roles. And
yes.
but you know, what I would suggest is that you know that the hospital has 4 levels. One is a patient. Not a hospital, it's a clinic, remember, at this point of time, the admin.
Yes.
Correct. Then you can call it the paramedical or the support clinical staff. That could be laboratory, that could be radiology, that could be echo technicians, could be physician assistants or nurse practitioners who will have certain amount. But ultimately, the physician assistants, the junior doctors, or should be able to update the SOAP note and even write a prescription. But the prescription is ultimately signed off only by authentication by the consultant. So that's the way it works.
Okay. So basically they need approval. Okay, cool.
The final approval comes from the consultant.
Okay.
And one major thing what you have to cover is Anand. There's something called 21 part CRF. Sorry, 21 CRF part 11 validation, which is a very important validation for managing a HIPAA electronic records and electronic signature in the whole system. Actually, that audit trail we have to keep it. That one thing actually, even at present application, we have a lag, because to get any kind of an approval, we have to comply with 21 CFR part 11 guidelines. Kindly go through those records and probably you may have to change bit on the what you call audit trails.
For logging, you mean? Like what do you keep in?
Yeah.
Or
what data is changed, how the data is changed, where the data has been moved out, and all these things.
Okay. I'll definitely look at that. For now, I think the way this will be handled is we're going to keep activity logs that will give us the power to see what happened at any point of time. And since we are going to be pushing, we're basically going to have the activity logs of the message queue itself. That way we will know what requests came in and what was the what was what we were trying to change. Then because we are using, since we'll be using MySQL like Postgres and Amazon, we will be able to get the snapshots of before and after to compare what happened as well. So we actually get that level of control. So we should be able to, compliance with that shouldn't be a problem. So
Could you share the
I'll
link to
definitely
this, Ravi? Just post it on Slack. Just 21 CRF or CFR?
It's a FDA 21 CFR part 11.
CFR
compliance.
guidelines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? So all our reports, right? Like if we are converting them into PDF, or even if you have it as JSON, we'll be using the Amazon's file storage S3 key value store to, yeah. That way, if they want to share that to somebody else, they'll just send their link to that person and they'll be able to see it. So that's like, I think it's a given at this point. That's why I didn't really talk about it, but we'll have that. Yeah, I think this is the base level of the architecture. I'll go quickly over what technology and stack we'll be going to be using. So we are going to have small Lambda functions, small functions for each and every part of our application. For instance, all the patient information is going to get the patient information, update the patient information. Those kind of stuff is going to be a separate function called the patient service, and that will be a JavaScript API. Same way, all the hospital related stuff and even editing the SOAP notes, that is going to be a separate service, and it will have its own name for it. If you want to add new, like if let's say that you want to add a new integration wherein we need to pull information from a new type of a glucometer, then that can just be a new service that we add, and you can just add it to our already existing system and it will start working. And you can set up when you have to do this. You can set up when this endpoint it happens, then do this pull and it will automatically work. Then I'm currently writing all a scraper in Node.js. So that's why I've said Node.js for scraper. And then we're using GitLab. I'm not sure if we are going to move to GitHub or not, but yeah, currently it's GitLab. We might move to GitHub. I like to use this Circle CI mainly. It's a easy deployment plus code check platform, wherein you can tell every time a push is made or every time you merge your code from development to the next stage, which is staging, you can run a certain workflows. It can be tests, you can deploy to the server. All those things can happen through this, and you can easily manage it. If a build fails, you can restart it. It kind of gives you, this is coming under this concept of code as infrastructure. Like you write code to build your infrastructure and manage it just by using your code and using buttons to click and to see what happens to your infrastructure. So Circle CI is one of those things that will really help us get that. Like I was mentioning, we are using the Amazon serverless concept. So even our front end is hosting will be taken care of that, and it is. We can decide to build in whatever language we want for the front end or whatever framework we want for the front end. It can be React, it can be Ember, it can be anything. It doesn't you can build small widgets and small different frameworks, and then all you have to worry about is which API call it is going to talk to and whether it is connected to the entire AWS ecosystem or not. That's it. So the options are limitless because of that. And then we're going to be using Postgres database, and we'll be using Redis. It's another key value store that helps in caching. This Terraform and other stuff, I don't want, like, we might use it in the future for better management of our deployments, to also enable us to manage deployments in multiple levels. So you will just have one like 5 to 6 lines of code that can be integrated into all our applications, which will take care of deploying them. And what Terraform gives you is you can just run one command from your local to deploy it to a particular place to see how your local code looks, those kind of stuff. So that's what Terraform gives, but we might not have it until we reach a point where we are like in V2 or V3. That's how I think both Terraform and Docker, I think that's what's going to happen. For the front end, for our clinic management, I think Ember works best because of the various data that it has to handle, and Ember just gives you the power of the store is already there, whereas in React you will have to create a Redux and hook separately. So the data model that is existing, it will just work with Ember. I spoke with Ashwin also about this, and he also has had a similar opinion. So I think we can use Ember.js for this. And both of us are like very well versed with Ember.js. So the development, if we at all we have to do some development, we can do it quickly as well. But yeah, do you guys have any other question in regards to this?
Tell me how you really feel about Ember.
Me?
Yeah, just messing.
Well, I love Ember.
I'm with the program. I think if he feels that strongly, then yeah, I'm with it. Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you why though. If for patient portal, I don't see we shouldn't be using Ember for patient portal. And also I would say for the hospital portal, it makes sense to use Ember because
there
are so many various data. Sorry?
The data heaviness.
Yeah, the data heaviness, and you will have to create so many Redux stores to handle the different types of data. Whereas in Ember, you don't have to do it. So that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to present. Stop sharing.
Well, good work. What is the action plan going forward?
Action plan going forward. I have a call. Me and Gaurav, we have a call with Ravi tomorrow. So we will be going. This call had to have happened a long time ago. It kept getting pushed because of one reason or the other. So the database migration will be the first step. First, we are doing is we are taking all the static data, all the compliance-based data, the lab data, all those things, and creating a new database for that. So once we have like a call tomorrow, Gaurav will start working on that. He's already worked. So I've already shared this article with him. So he's getting up to speed on all the Lambda stuff. He said that he's trying out Hello World. So I told him I'll help him out with that. We're going to set up the basic architecture, and we're going to be creating the API service for the static content. We're going to be creating a Lambda API, which will give you API things like get me all the labs, get me all the medicines, that will be used for the pharmacy, right? So when you're writing a prescription, as soon as you type a name, it gives you a set of medicines, right? So those kind of API calls will be in a separate Lambda. So we want to finish that first. So that will be the first task. And Ashwin and we were actually working on roadmap for all these various parts of the application, coming up with a 6-month plus what's going to happen in V1, those kind of stuff. We didn't finish it yet. Once we finish it, we'll share it with you guys.
You know what would be cool if we can somehow also tie up diagnosis with recommendations for medication?
Recommendation, we can, right? I mean, it's when you are
I don't
saying
consider that V2 or V3. We want to do it.
No,
we want to do it.
This is definitely a V2, V3 situation for sure. I'm just saying, let's think about that as we build this, as we architect this thing, so that we can take into account maybe potential machine learning or AI-esque algorithms, going through the system, looking at what is consistently being prescribed for different diagnoses, and then maybe once people start typing, it gives you the suggested prescriptions as well as whatever else medicine they're typing in.
Definitely. Based
Yeah,
on
I
the
think
conversations you've had with Dr. Krishna on this, Dr. Krishna has been mentioning the idea of giving predictive analysis based on, say, data from glucometer readings, or what ideal medications could there be, or giving very smart suggestions based on, say, patient's prior history in terms of allergies, prior diagnostics. He gave an example once about tuberculosis. If a patient had TB a few years ago and they had taken some steroids, or if they had TB before and, say, a doctor is thinking of prescribing steroids, the system being smart enough to alert the system. So real-time alerts that way, as well as predictive analysis for any given patient in terms of ideal treatment. It's that wellness approach rather than a very reactive patient care. So that ties into that.
okay.
We do have those
So
things in mind. However, given that it's V1, it's not something that we are actively speaking about.
I can talk
Yeah,
a
that makes
little bit
sense.
about how that. I can talk a little bit about how that will work. So, like I was mentioning a little bit about how you might want to run queries to get accumulative data for certain particular diagnosis, right? You can have a service which will be a Lambda, which will talk to something like Spark or Hadoop, some kind of an HDFS system, which is going to handle AI-based logics. So you will run these queries and then do AA on that, and you have that ready stored in that. So whenever you want to show that information, you will just be able to show that information through that system. And this system is constantly, as you add new cases into the case, as you have new appointments, you will have a schedule as to how frequently you need to do this computation. So the computation is constantly happening in that service, and the data is getting pushed to a place where you can view it. And whenever you want to view it, it will just get viewed. So when you say real time, it is not really possible for you to calculate it at that point of time. It always has to calculate whenever. So you'll have to schedule calculations. And
I think when he says real time, he's talking more about being able to say things like, "Oh, this patient has this allergy or is on this medication," and giving them this other medication is a contraindication.
So when I mentioned
okay.
predictive analysis, maybe I wasn't clear. My bad. I mentioned both scenarios. One is the predictive analysis that you just mentioned now in terms of crunching the data. The other one is the example that Arun gave now. That I refer to that as that. I refer to the latter as more of real time.
So there are two components to this. One is what we call clinical decision support. So clinical decision support comes with allergies, with most likely successful drugs, or suggest a clinic. So if there's a learning module that is integrated into the system, then it allows you to work through clinical pathways, right? It can pull in a real time saying, these are the latest articles on this. Would you want those support? So that's one bit. The other is using machine learning to actually suggest, what drug works best given the circumstances of the patient. It sort of pulls together the history, it pulls together the data that is the data that is populated, and actually starts saying that, given your history and given the system-wide experience with this, that with 100 doctors on board, this many number of patients on board, the likelihood of this drug succeeding is less than this drug, and gives you a sort of this thing. But that's the machine learning, patient physician support that you have. So the CDS does not depend on the CDS. Mostly depends on established rules in the medical industry. The machine learning is looking at a higher level of support based on the local parameters, based on the patient data that is accumulated in the system, saying that this works or this does not work. And that of course that's V3, V4. But if it's capable of pulling out that kind of, because you're going to have massive amounts of data. I don't think there's any other EMR in the world that's going to have this many amount of patient-related data that's generated with it. So that's where we will actually start becoming pioneers simply because patients are going to put in data, their glucometer readings, their blood pressure readings, their health app readings are all going to flow into the system, right? So that's how we designed it. No electronic medical record in the world does that so far. So we have a head start on this, which means also we have the ability to be pioneers in matching physician decisions with patient patient data that so far EMRs or machine learning systems have not used, or they've used in standalone. So that's all. I'm sorry. I think I spoke more than I should have.
Okay. I mean, sorry about that, but I do understand what you're saying. That's a very good point. We can do it, that we can collect the data. Right now, the data structure and the architecture is set up in such a way that you can query any of those information from the database easily. Like it's all actually being stored in a very free form type, so that there is like you don't have to really. It is very easy to make sense of the data also. So that's one of the key points that Ashwin and I, when we were discussing, we did discuss about that. So it is quite easy to get that information. What you do with that information, whether you feed it to a machine learning system, those things we have to set it up as we go to the point where we have those V2 or V3. We will define what parameters decide, and then we'll build a service in ML or other aspects. But yeah, for that alone, I don't think if you're going to be doing machine learning, a constantly running service, that will have to be a separate container. It will not be a Lambda architecture, because in Lambda architecture that you don't own a server. You just it's basically like, hey, give me a CPU, I will run for a few minutes and then get back. So that's the concept. For running ML based algorithms, we will just have a separate server. That will come in V2.
Yeah, makes sense. What was the other thing to think about? There was one more thing. What about post-appointment care and like follow-ups?
So that's also handled, right? Like that is also another widget. Like certain clinics will have that, certain clinics will not have that, and based on that, the doctor can fill up the post-appointment care documentation, and it will be sent to the patient. It will be
Okay, so we're just like
another lab.
Back on the existing queuing system.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very free architecture in the way that in certain whatever the clinic wants, they will, when the clinic is being set up and then the hospital, when the doctor is being set up, they will have a lot of things to fill out. They will have widgets to select what needs to there'll be like a state flow that they would have to set, and based on the state flow, you will have separate interactions for the patient.
So we need to then talk about that onboarding process as well, because it sounds like we're kind of complicating it out the bat, and we need to figure out how to sort of simplify that onboarding process. And then, so maybe we should like have Dr. Krishna and Dr. Sanjay sit down and maybe create some templates, which can be the base to start with for most different kinds of professions or different kinds of specialties, and then from there we can start working towards making it here's your starter point. You can start customizing this rather than saying you start.
So yeah, that makes sense. We can definitely.
One thing, Anand, is what I would love to see is at some point. See, remember remember the level that we are working in. So we are also trying to work at a very, very low level in terms of clinical infrastructure. So what you really want is for a doctor to be able to self-board a small, 1 to 2 employee clinic at the most, and we could handhold larger spaces. But it needs to be as simple as a single specialty, single clinic with 1 employee or even no employee, being able to self-board based on what we have. And then the larger things, of course, we will have people They can self-board, but we will have the ability to handhold. But the simplest stuff is to set up, two roles, a front office and the doctor, right? And maybe a nurse will
Mhm.
take vitals and then the doctor doing the rest of the stuff. The nurse being and the front office being able to do the invoicing and all of that. But the way I would love to think is if someone just got out of medical college and is just going to set up a hole in the wall, you should still be able to do this thing, self-board himself, see the patient, write the note, collect the fee, and then send them up. So we need to have that level of simplicity at the boarding process.
Okay. Yeah, we'll.
Yeah, for sure. And
we-
Anand, something else to think about is also multi-specialty, having multiple doctors at a place with different specialties, and how we onboard them as well. So
Yeah, that's why it's
onboarding is going
called.
to be I think the killer.
Okay, I have a base
Right.
idea of how this onboarding is going to work, but I will create a document for that as well. Like I can give you guys like a proper walkthrough of what I'm thinking. But like Arun mentioned, I think it would also be a great idea if we can come up with templates that will give a better idea as to what are the things that we might be missing out. So um, when I talk about onboarding, I'm talking about it from a clinic's point of view. A clinic, first of all, depending upon the clinic, you will have how many doctors, and for each doctor, what are the widgets. So Arun, like the multi-speciality is already taken care of in that way, in that sense.
Okay.
But there are certain things that we need to figure out as far as onboarding itself is concerned for the physician or the clinic, and templates will definitely be helpful. Like if we have a quick examples of how the onboarding process is for your clinic and Dr. Sanjay's clinic, maybe that itself will be like a good starting point for us. That'll be helpful.
Ravi, can you offline, walk Anand through, actually how we onboarded Tirupati, which is a good idea, good example of how it was done. Right now, though, remember we are onboarding. It's not a self-onboarding process. Ravi?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Yeah. But then if you want a flow, we will also write a flow and give it to you. But you can actually see the example of how it was done. So we do it, and you can even get into a new onboarding when it's being done. So we'll show it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if I'll see that first, and I'll also come up with another document where I explain this onboarding process, and then we can take it from there.
So Anand, there is one more bit to this, and that is the pharmacy bit, right? There are some clinics that will have a pharmacy, and sometimes some clinics that will use a remote pharmacy if they have a relationship, right? And many of them will just give it to patients. So I think we need to sort of think about how this gets transmitted to a pharmacy or a pharmacy module. We already have a lab module that is functioning. I don't know, Ravi.
Yeah, we do have a lab model, and lab is integrated. But only thing is, if we wanted to get the data from the outside lab, actually that's what we are working. And yes, as you said, we are working on integrating with outside pharmacy, because pharmacy is a bigger subject in terms of inventory, stock management, and all these things. At present, we don't want to get into that. So we wanted to just give the output to the pharmacy wherever the patient likes to get the medicine. Yeah.
See, it's a same. So in ours, the way I've designed it, so what will happen is the pharmacy, you can create a new pharmacy document, and once we have integrations with various pharmacies, you will just it will be an internal API call to push to another pharmacy. That's going to be pharmacy and lab will have their own services. Like I was mentioning before, there will be a separate Lambda function which will have handle the API call, and that will take care of pushing, like sending you to that particular lab or pharmacy. From the system's point of view, both lab and both give it a lab, given a pharmacy, they're all documents. The documents contain a list of items for them to do. for a particular patient. So we don't want to distinguish a pharmacy from a lab in that sense. If a lab, same way, if a lab is going to give you a report, or a pharmacy is going to come up with another report, they're again going to be from their point of view, it's going to be document interactions. They're going to send us a report. So that's the system. That's how I am thinking of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, is there any other thing that I'm missing in this?
So the only other thing that will be required in an Indian clinic that has a pharmacy is it has to be a two-way, in the sense that, for example, let's say I'm writing one generic drug, and let's say there are 3 trade names of the drug available, right? Many doctors who are entrepreneurs, who are basically running their pharmacy, would like to know, whether the drug that they're writing is available in the pharmacy, which means that it has to talk both ways. It has to talk with the inventory of the pharmacy. Correct? In fact, I think for example, Ravi's boss, who runs a hospital, works with different pharmaceutical companies, and he would like to know how much of those drugs are available. But at least, if a drug is not available, it should not. It should say it should be grayed out and shown up that the drug is not in stock. So that is the one thing that the pharmacy module should have, right, Ravi?
Yeah, it usually right now we have integrated with the same similar kind, where one is the stock. Second thing is which is the fast moving. Maybe in terms of a generic medicines, actually one generic can have a multiple trade names, multiple brands, multiple manufacturers, multiple people.
But you don't make medicine decisions based on inventory available at a particular pharmacy.
Yeah, they will. The doctor will decide which one to push.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. So basically, this is a feature that we are giving to the clinic.
Not the
So
most
it's not
ethical
really
practice, but they do. Not the most ethical practice, but they do.
okay. So this is a new service or a feature that.
Can we keep it as a lower priority then, given that it doesn't really stand at the top of the ethics ladder?
No, you probably no, Ashwin. I'll tell you something. From a business perspective,
Yes.
I think this is going to be this will be a deal breaker in multi-specialty clinics.
See, all the clinics, even a single doctor clinic, will also have a tie-up with specific pharmacy people, and they know what trades are available in that pharmacy, and they will write only those medicines.
Okay. So they may not be able to know the inventory of that place, right?
If it is possible, yeah. Some people actually they wanted to know the stock actually. If they have their own pharmacy, or they have a tie-up with where the pharmacy can throw the data or something like that.
Okay, so we will have a pharmacy admin updating these values as well then, right? That's like it's totally a different UI and everything, right? Like pharmacy person needs to update their pharmacy stock. Every day.
Yes, it's automated, no? Because whenever they say they buy the medicines bulkly, actually it will be added. It's a GRN, and whenever they do a sale, it will be deducted. So it's based on that. Actually, the overall closing stock will be shown over there itself as a batch wise.
It is under the assumption that they will have a barcode scanner, all those things.
It not be in India. It's not a barcode scanner. Actually, it's all based on the batch number. And second thing is, some pharmacy they wanted to push the medicine based on the expiry date also. Nearing expiry stocks, they wanted to sell it fast, and with the whatever the discounts
are. So that means that. So when you are
tagged with
pharmacies,
it's tagged with the medicine name along with the batch.
Yeah, some unique identifier when they have. So they will have to do the billing through our system.
Yes, there will be some kind of an unique identification is required with the generic name, with the trade name. Second thing is the batch number and expiry date.
Okay. No. My question is, they will have to do the billing through our system, right?
No, that's what actually we don't want to do that much complication things actually, because if we are allowed to do the billing system, then we have to give them a whole inventory system itself. It's too much of complication work.
Okay, now how are you? Okay, you say you don't have it right now, right? But how do we keep track of the batch number if we do not build it through our system?
See,
How
the
will we
closing
know the
stock
count?
is available based on the batch identification. What is the stock availability is there, that will be available to us in this, in terms of either in a JSON format or either in a structured format or either in a CSV format or whatever format. It is available as a in a batch. Sorry, Arun.
Arun, you're breaking.
Yeah, I think he's saying it's available as an API from existing pharmacy management
Yes.
platforms that these things use. So
some of them are providing an API, some of them are providing as an export option.
Okay, so
Okay, so they
it's
are
not
all
a problem we need to solve for today.
yeah, okay. But yeah, we will have to talk about this more. We can do this. It's just something that is totally different from our current architecture, but we can,
Yes.
I mean, our product itself, actually, it's a product of its own. We can do it. It's definitely something doable. We can do this like in V2.
Are we ultimately going to have it in-house, or are we thinking of, like, integrating with other modules, like, different softwares that are available for pharmacy management?
If they want to talk to us, we already are letting people exposing our APIs.
Wait, guys, one moment. For the pharmacy management,
We should worry about a pharmacy management
it's
solution right
sometime
now.
that's no, not now. That's
No.
way too early in the
Yeah.
conversation.
No, just want that one
Sorry,
question,
Smith.
like, you have.
No. I want no, Smith, not for your question specifically, but I want to interject.
Yeah.
Like a couple of minutes ago, I walked away from the laptop. I was walking in my
Fine.
headphones.
Okay.
I was gonna say, okay, time out on the pharmacy bit for now. Like whatever information we have, that's good. But
Okay.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, and okay, then I think we are good. Only thing, Ravi, you said the code freeze for the product is 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, within that time, actually, we wanted to finish it off. It's already in work in progress, so it'll be
Okay, how many people are working on it right now?
2 people.
Part-time, yeah?
Come again?
Part-time, correct?
No. Full time they are working. One person is working on app. Actually, one more person is working on the web side, web application side. Yeah, sorry.
Got it. So after the code freeze, is this resource available to us?
Yes, sure.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. I think we are good.
All right.
Does anybody else have any other information?
I actually want to ask everyone, the Wednesday meeting, can we advance it to say 10 p.m.? 11 p.m. feels a bit late, and when we have these presentations,
totally fine.
goes into midnight.
Yeah.
I agree.
10 p.m. is
Absolutely
11:30.
okay.
So yeah, it's yeah.
Okay with me also. Yeah.
Dr. Krishna?
No, I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy to come at 10. So, but Ashwin and Ravi, you need to start. One thing for the two of you is, is to get the HR in place in terms of, one, Ravi has 2 resources. If they are just going to be absorbed, that's fine. And I think we have one more. Sanjay, we'll talk to Sanjay, and I think we'll onboard Deepa for all the, the client management services for now. So you, I think you can work with Ravi and be freezing human resources with also.
Okay.
I think Ashwin, we will. I'm meeting Dr. Sanjay on Friday. Probably we can have a group call. Yeah, along with Sanjay.
Yes, please. Also, the person who will be handling HR and ops would be Dinesh. He's not on the call today.
Mm-hmm.
But I've already given him a couple of tasks in terms of scouting for engineers and GTM folks for that product.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fill him in tomorrow, and and also loop him in on the call on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not well, right? So he told me also he told me that.
So
Hello?
Ashwin, what I would love to see from.
I'm just saying that Dinesh was not going to be available today because he's not feeling well. He called me also and let me know that.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
Yes.
Ashwin, what would be lovely for us to review at some point of time is an AOP, right? That looks at what our annual operating plan is and what are the milestones. And now that we have a little bit of a handle on this, we can have some dates. I don't know if you've thought at that level, but if you could.
I have. So regarding the dates, sorry to interject. Regarding the dates, it's a bit of an ongoing thing with Anand right now, just for the tech aspect of things. Fairly confident with design. And with Anand, I need to go over the architecture timelines. We had initially planned for May, but with respect to an AOP, I will come up with some plan for the year 2022. I wanted to have a chat with you before I actually did like a presentation or something. Like I wanted to, it has to be more interactive. We need to go back and forth. I want to loop in, like Smith has to also be in on this discussion. So, and I didn't want to do this before finalizing a few things with Anand. I'm hoping that I'll be done with that in the next 5 days.
Take your time, but I think by the start of the financial year, let's have an AOP with projected budgets, HR, all the other stuff.
Oh yeah, no. Like in the timeline that I had in my head, I've already skipped it. So I'm trying to get that going. We need to also figure out operating costs. Like a lot of, we need to figure out the numbers also.
Right.
Pricing strategy and so on. But yes, just give me some time. I would say a couple of weeks. By then I should have the engineering thing ironed out.
So, also one more question I have, and that's something we need to keep thinking about is that, that we should also look at the subscription. So what is it that everyone gets, right? Then level one in terms of, profiles and stuff or ability to customize more stuff. Then, the third level of clinical decision support and machine learning and others, but also, the ability to integrate machines. I think we need to start looking at the pricing models also and think of as built-in. So both from a patient perspective, for example, they want to sign in, and how do we share? For example, one of the things that we've done right now is let us say the glucometer. The glucometer is we source the glucometer from a particular this thing. And our USP is that we've been able to integrate it into the EMR. So the clinic actually purchases the glucometer from, let's say, Aina. The clinic can sell, let's say they buy it at around 600 rupees and they sell the glucometer at 800. Let's say they price the strip at 6 rupees per strip and they sell it between 8 or 10 rupees, they make a profit. And what is happening is that every sale that's made to the clinic, we CliniqtecH also gets this thing and gets somewhat of a fee. So, for example, I think with the glucometer, I think CliniqtecH will get about 100 rupees per glucometer, and maybe 1 or 2 rupees per strip. So we are actually, and that is one of the models we are actually going to work in. So the subscription then we could also think about patient subscriptions in the sense that the degree of dashboard they have, the amount of wellness that they can buy in. Whether we will be providing them back-end value-add services, we'll think about it. But the portal itself can also start making money by many things. So keep your eyes on this. I mean, I don't know if this is V1, V2, V3, but I'm just looking at a 360-degree amount of revenue flowing into both the clinician, which is how we have thought about it, but also to us from each of these places. For example, the device strategy will allow us to make some money. The data strategy will allow us to make some money with physician consent. Also, allowing patients to monitor their data, to keep their targets, maybe add coaches over time to it. Each of that is subscription. So I'm just thinking loud. so that you can factor it, and it may not kick in at the end of the first year, but it will.
No, sir. That's why actually I pitched it in as a patient subscription model actually, because you remember we were talking to a Krish, who works with major corporate employees. They have almost around more than 1 lakh corporate accounts with them actually. So they were suggesting us, why don't you go for a patient subscription model and all these things? Because actually the corporate segment, what they wanted is actually they're already they are paying from their HR side, and the amount is coming up, and but they wanted a validation system, validation benefits and all these things. So a patient can subscribe to any kind of an multiple what you call consultations, or maybe a diet advisories, or maybe some other things. Actually, one of the things I got is a doctor from Dr. Watson. He is a uroenterologist. He said actually many patients inquires about andrology related diet patterns, lifestyles. So he's giving it as a extra, as a value addition. I don't know whether it's a good practice or not. Actually, I don't know. But this kind of a things, yes, the patients are allowed to subscribe and go for these kind of models.
Okay, noted. I'm just taking notes on the side.
I guess Anand has got dropped. Yeah.
I do want to say to Ravi's point, there actually is a full-time dietitian at my uncle's practice, so it's definitely not off the charts to expect some kind of an additional resource in terms of diet or post-appointment care in general.
To both the points, I think we have good value additions. I mean, like one that we discussed offline also was that if you have that teledoc kind of a feature, you're basically allowing for certain value additions coming to you based on recommendations. So once you have that recommended, like so that value add isn't being in the diet, or you need some things like that, you can consult. You can provide that consult online and have them schedule an online call to that dietitian or something like that, and then take it from there. So this is done right from the clinic because you're giving it as a value add. And I think the device option also, I think we had an offline discussion on that with Dr. Krishna. He said, yeah, definitely we're going to be looking at that as as another setup, as a vertical itself. I think I just have to we can talk about those things wherein you become the sole supplier of those devices. So all clinics that you add, you let them know that this is the one that we have. We will help you get the supply. We'll keep your supply on. We'll provide all the devices to you. We'll understand from your demand how we can provide it to you faster, things like that.
So even in terms of human resources, for example, let's say these are small clinics that can't afford their dietitian, right? We could empanel someone who gets paid through the system and says, we have these dietitians available, you can use them. They don't have to come there. You could get an online consult, and this way it becomes your clinic's dietitian, right? So
Exactly. So like
it doesn't have to be located in the same
you can
place.
suggest certain features that you need only in online consult. You can just provide them on the platform, citywide or region wide, and just take a call on that. So once you have the set of doctors, you can start working towards that. You can connect one physician or one clinic across all, because they do things that are more efficient online. So that can definitely be added as a feature, as a value add as you keep going ahead.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
We
we can wind up.
Hey, I just have one other thing. Arun mentioned that there's a possibility of changing or setting a product name.
Yeah.
Arun, did you get a chance to talk to Ravi and Krishna? And
I haven't. We agreed upon changing it. We don't have
any ideas?
had a Slack channel in Brainstorm.
Could you just open up, we can throw ideas in there, and we can commit to choosing a name by like this weekend?
Are you asking me to come up with ideas for a name?
No, I'm asking you to start a Slack channel, and I'm asking everyone to contribute there, and we make a decision by this weekend.
Okay. I'll call it
I'm
brainstorm.
starting the channel right now. It's open for me. I can do that.
Yeah, call it Namestorm for all we care.
Namestorm.
Yeah, brainstorm. They are done.
Ashwin, one more thing is, have you started looking at the brand colors and stuff like that? Has someone started working on that? Because
Yes,
the next-
So that's why he's asking this question.
So GJ wanted to. So remember, Doctor, I had asked you for like a word cloud or some word suggestions on how you envision this product. Like we had this chat a while ago.
Yeah.
So getting those word clouds will also help us come up with a primary and a secondary color palette based on which GJ can extrapolate from that and then come up with a color theme for this. He already has the base, the blues and the blacks and the grays all sorted out. He has a color palette already defined. But we need two colors, primary and secondary, to define the overall tone of the product. Usually with healthcare, it's blue, with different shades of blue. We could also go with purple, but those are just colors that are coming to me in the top of my head. But it also depends on the type of word cloud we want to map it to.
Okay. We use, care, empathy, science, evidence.
I'm noting it down.
Right? Support.
Wellness,
Health, decision. Quality.
change it decisive maybe.
I know, well, maybe. Quality is a very important part. Improvement, advocacy, advancement, empowerment, education, healing.
We'll also add kindness and communication.
Communication, right? Healing.
Okay, I think that's a good set of words for that. Okay. Okay, that'll help. So give me a few days. We should have a color palette ready for the product. Okay, so I've created a brainstorm channel, added Arun, DJ, Anand, Dr. Krishna, Smith, Ravi. Did I miss anyone? Gaurav. Okay, all right. So are we good, everyone?
I sent the link for that.
Yeah.
Deck on the same on Slack to you. You
Smith,
were already there actually.
Smith can't hear you. What were you saying?
The deck. I think Arun, you already have access to that. You just need to check it up.
Yeah, I've taken a look. I'll come back to you with comments later today.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. I think we're good, right? Anything else, anyone?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.